let me welcome you to this workshop. This workshop is focusing on how to communicate effectively and successfully your research result. In our case, apparently energy system modeling. That would be the ideal situation. We plan to have one short presentation and one a bit longer presentation. The one would be about the elevator pitch. I don't know how many of you know or how many of you heard about the elevator pitch. That is a very simple and effective way to summarize originally for future investors, an idea of starting up a company or launching a product. But it's also great to use to pitch or to tell your colleagues or your professors or other companies who might be interested in investing in your research result, what your research is about. It's basically a door opener to future presentations or future negotiations. And originally this would be the second presentation, but right now, because Masha is having problems in joining us, we're going to start with this. And then if Masha Thaler from Climate Alliance, who's a communication expert, manages to join us from Brussels, she will talk about what makes a good presentation particularly interesting. I've heard this presentation and I think it's a pretty good one. It's worth to stay for. Afterwards, we would like to go in groups if we have enough participants. But if we stay like this, maybe we can just stay together in the big room. And then we will you will make together a pitch. For that, we prepared a slide deck for you, what you can use. And I promise you the slide deck will be nothing new to you because it's based on the slides you will see soon. So this is the idea. That's why it's a workshop. And I hope you stay with us. Now, before we start, just a quick question. How many of you ever presented an energy system model research result, let's say? If you have done so, please write in the chat right now. I will wait for 2 minutes. Okay, seems no one. How many of you have ever needed to present a research result in 2 minutes to someone? Okay, no one. That's interesting. So it's going to be a nice exercise for you, how to present something in 2 minutes. What about you have 2 minutes to present to the mayor? All right, that's a good point. How about 10 minutes presentation about research results? How many of you gave a presentation that was not more than 10 minutes long? Oh, great. Stratos, so 10 minutes, right? You can imagine that's like I would say three elevator pitches. So Stratos, can you imagine to summarize that presentation in 2 minutes? Or would that be too big of a task? Because, yeah, right. Yeah, it's very difficult. That's true. Now let's see how this could go. Have you ever seen an elevator pitch? If you did, online or saw someone doing it, if you did, please write in the chat right now. Wolfgang saw an elevator pitch already. Wolfgang, what was that about? Do you remember?
Not very much, because we had a training in an Upper Climate Alliance conference a couple of years ago. We made communication training, I remember, and we had to pitch, but I don't remember the word elevator. So elevator for me, it's I'm living in the 4th or on the 5th floor. So I need an
Exactly.
elevator. No?
Okay, and George also saw one on Monday. George, you want to tell some words about it?
Yeah, somehow I cannot turn on the camera, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, no problem.
Okay, I think it was on blue growth, so on how to collect maritime litter, and now it's working. Okay, I had to stop Skype. Microsoft was competing with Zoom on the camera. Yeah, it was quite interesting. So there were two companies that were presenting, and they had a boat, and they were collecting some data about the water quality, and they did it longer, not in 2 minutes. They did it in 10 minutes, I think, or 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. That was not an elevator pitch. But all right, good to hear. Good to hear that you've seen some. Now, let me just start the presentation so that I can tell you some more words about it. So let's hope that you see everything. I'll make this small. All right, so welcome again to the workshop. Let's hope that it works, right? So as I said, the agenda changed a little bit. The art of presenting will come after the elevator pitch. Now let's start with why pitching, right? So the word pitch is an interesting one. It's basically a presentation. Now we heard the question, right? An elevator pitch, why elevator? The elevator pitch comes originally from the business world. As I said, it was developed for shortly presenting a very interesting idea for a company or investment. And the whole concept basically was organically developed in the US, where there's the business environment allows to people to start up with an idea and try to find investors to actually realize that idea. Now it is very difficult to approach investors. So how would you approach an investor in a very creative way? The best way, some say, is of course the toilet, but that's not what we are talking about now. Another way is to grab the attention of someone while going up on a skyscraper in an elevator. Now you have very few minutes to present your idea in an elevator, usually not more than 2 to 3 minutes, because that person has your attention for those 2 minutes while they are in the elevator with you. And those 2 minutes you have to make use. You have to be able to present your idea and, or in our case, a research result in a way that the investor, the other side, understands and gets very excited and interested in your idea. That's why it's called the elevator pitch. They were presenting in an elevator. Now, how do you do an elevator pitch? You have 2 minutes. That's one of the most important things to remember. You have 2 to 3 minutes. You have to be able to present the core point and the core interesting part of your research result, the one most single interesting thing that the other party will find interesting enough to go with you on your way to invest in your idea, either time or money. So you will need to be able to present the problem in just one sentence, but how would that problem become something that grabs the attention? That problem needs to connect to the real world. You have to, especially in case of research, you are very much into your research. You know every single detail. You know how it works. You know why you do it. You know what you're going to do. You know what are the steps to do it. But the other side, the outside world, doesn't know all these details. But what they know is their own environment, the real world, so to say. So you have to be able to present the problem that, or you call it the research question, right? But the research question needs to be something that connects to the real world. In case of a research result that will be used, in our case, let's say in a municipality, in a community, you need to understand that the politicians have no clue about what you're talking about. Right, so make sure that your problem is connecting to the real world and you're able to present it in a way that people think, oh, okay, yeah, I see why you're researching in this area. Now, the next thing you would need to be able to present in a very concise and very clear way is what your vision is. Your vision is not your result. Your vision is why you're doing what you're doing. Why is this research so important to humanity, to Europe, to the people, or to the environment we are living in? If your vision is connecting to specific solutions in your research, this is the place where you give that solution in a very clear and simple way. The third issue that you need to keep in mind is the timeliness. You know, you live right now. The people who listen to you live right now. They're interested in problems that happen right now. So you will need to be able to show why is now the best time that your solution to the problem you presented need to be financed, let's say, or you need to be backed or need to be listened to. It is very good for you if you know what are the current trends, what is out there, other than your research, of course, that supports your research endeavor. When you've done all this, you can show the evidence. Now, how to show the evidence is also a key issue. Showing or listing 10,000 different kind of numbers, percentages is one thing. But on the other hand, it's very good to have something visual in your hand, right? To back your issue, to back your research with visual representation of what you're doing. I'm not talking about the outcome yet, so not necessarily graphs that are actually your research result, but everything that supports that outcome. If you have news articles that kind of back your idea of why is this a problem? Why is it so important right now? Use it. When you've done all this, now it's basically, you can show what your research result is about. What you see here is just part of a visual representation of the Y project. The Y project is what we are participating in right now. Climate Alliance is doing communication for this project. And you see one part of it, just as a kind of little kind reminder. You will have a website at the end of the presentation where you can have a look into if you're interested. Would be very much welcome, I'm sure. When you have your concrete outcome to be presented, you need to make sure that the other party understands that this is the ultimate solution for the problem you drawn up, and this is why your vision is so important. You should never forget who will benefit. People are always the key to every research, to every result. We are living in a world where we are humans, and this is why the human component is so important. If you do research that is, and the research result in terms of energy modeling could be something that is quite detached from humans, but on the other hand, there are humans who are using energy. So it's very good for you if you make the connection to the users. If you can prove that the connection you made actually makes sense, and that the difference you make with your research result will have a specific impact on the people living in a certain area. For you, it's also quite kind of interesting to know, how are these people? What are the characteristics? Who are they? Who are you doing the research for? This also could motivate you to further develop your idea. And then if you still have time, it's your time to shine. You can use whatever you want to prove why your research result is so important. You can use pictures, you can demonstrate the business model, you can demonstrate the idea, you can demonstrate your research result. Whatever you feel will support your point. Now, in communication, there are different theories of how we understand how we learn from each other. In the elevator pitch, there's one single important thing to remember. In 2 minutes, you will flood the mind of the other party. People always remember one single most important thing from a 2 minutes presentation that is overflooded with information. So make sure that you know what is this one single most important thing the other party wants to remember. As I said in the beginning, it's very good to know what is already out there. It's not only good to know for you when you do your research and when you demonstrate why is it important, but it's also good to know because the solutions that have been offered could play against you. The investor or the other party could say, okay, let me compare. Why is this so interesting for me? What is the benefit of your research compared to the other ones? And when you know what the advantages of your research results compared to the other one, you can also tell that, you can demonstrate, you can list it, you can visualize it. You can also make sure that your competitiveness is solid. And it will prove how you respond to the different challenges. And then again, remember, one single most important thing is important. How you can make sure that people remember it just repeat. If you aim for return on investment, it may be interesting to look into if your research result can be turned into a business model. If that's so, and you're looking for investment in terms of money, then it might help you to have a look into different kind of business models, maybe use the business model canvas. That's I would say the first step to create a business model. And it's a very helpful one for those who are not into, you know, what is business model. I can really recommend that. When you finish your pitch and you're looking for investors, business model, and your team who is doing what is the expertise, and what are the different steps you try to reach, and you go down on the road to get to the result, can be very useful. All right, that's it for the elevator pitch. I collected some videos for you. You will have the access to this presentation, and you can use the links to if you're interested to learn more. Here's the Y project website, what I was talking about. It could be interesting if you're interested into how to forecast the domestic sector's energy consumption with the artificial intelligence, help of artificial intelligence. But right now, I would say, hoping that Masha managed to join us. But I don't see her. No, yeah, I see her. Yeah, Masha's here.
I'm here.
Hi.
I'm so sorry.
Wonderful.
It was a big adventure to get to internet today. So that's why I'm a bit late. And I'm actually sitting now in a cafe. And I kind of chose a spot where you will see everyone that comes into the cafe. So sorry about that. It's going to be a little bit distracting for all of you.
Then it's the perfect situation for an elevator pitch, I would say.
Exactly.
People come in to the elevator, people leave.
It's not the ideal. So sorry about that. Also, the sound, may not be ideal. So I'm going to try to speak kind of low so that I don't disturb the others. But you will be hearing coffee machines and people. Really sorry about that. But for some reason, there's no internet in my home today. So first of all, hello everyone, good morning. So my name is Masha Tarle. I work at Climate Alliance. So I've been working at Climate Alliance for about 9 months now. But before this, I've always been working in communications. So for different associations, often working on topics of energy, but also working as a coach on public speaking and communications. So I've been doing that for about 10 years now, especially helping one-on-one. So people who are afraid of speaking in public or who just want to improve. And I've also had a lot of clients throughout these years who were researchers, which I'm assuming that most of you are somehow related to research and academics, right? Could you maybe just put your hand up if you are somehow in the research field? And that, yeah, okay, we have, yeah. So I'm going to say some names, and sorry if I say them wrong. So we have Stratos, hello, good morning. We have Bryn. Hello, good morning. We have Benham. We have Maite, who I'm assuming is Spanish. Hola, buenos dias. We have Valentin, we have George, and we have Fai. And of course, we have my colleagues, Wolfgang and Axel and Eva. So thank you everyone for joining. So I'm going to just start with the presentation. However, I can see that I cannot share my screen. So if the host can just make it possible for me to share my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a sec. You should be able to share your screen now.
So just a second. First open. Okay, so Eva, can you see my screen well?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Wonderful. Okay, so let me then start with this presentation today, which is what makes a presentation interesting and engaging. Okay, so the first thing I want to just say is what are the session's objectives? So unfortunately, today we had Eva already tell you about pitches, which usually comes a little bit after the basic introduction. However, the main objective for today, kind of remind you, because all of you have, of course, been doing presentations. What I want to see is, what is the most important thing when you give a presentation? So what is it about creating and preparing and delivering presentations that we always need to keep in mind? We're going to be talking about things such as finding a purpose. Very important to have a purpose. We're going to be talking about information needs and structure, so the hierarchy of information, and how that is very important, especially for researchers who tend to want to, when they give a talk or a presentation, they tend to want to do it in a similar way as they present their research in writing. But of course, speaking is a very different way of communication. So we're going to see how we translate one from another. And we're going to also talk about the extreme importance of introductions and conclusions. So, the kind of purposes that they fill out there as well, and what it means to have a good delivery technique. So I'm going to try to do all of this in 20 minutes, which means that I have, Eva, if you can just tell me that I'm right, that I have until 9:56, 55, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing we want to see is, of course, there is a difference between speaking. That seems obvious to most people. But for some reason, sometimes we think that we can just translate written into speaking without a lot of effort. However, when we speak, and this is what I'm doing now, what we have, so even if I had prepared what I'm going to say now on the paper and read it out to you, what would really be important is a set of elements which we need to have in mind when we speak. We have visual cues, right? So you have all the visual cues by seeing me, and unfortunately seeing all the distractions behind as well. You have the way that I speak, so my intonation, my volume. Of course, you have the appearance as well. You have my gestures, you have my face expression. And when it comes to voice, you also have the times when I don't speak as well. So all of these things are articulated as well and are not actually present in a communication that is. The thing that we need to do when we have a presentation before getting really into the right state of mind is saying, why am I doing this presentation? That's a very important thing. So, even for today, so why am I, Masha, doing this talk to you today? Am I just doing it because I have to, because my colleague asked me to, and it's just, or am I doing this because I really want you, the audience, although I still don't know you very well, but I might get to know you in the next hour. Maybe I actually want you to, to get super motivated about presenting, to get kind of positive about presenting again. Maybe I want you to think about presentations in a new way. So I need to think about the why. Another thing I always want to be thinking about is, why am I the right person to talk about this? And let's not confuse this with a feeling of, oh, maybe I'm not the right person to talk about this. So I've had a lot of clients who have had, this issue of feeling that they're not very confident because maybe there's other experts, other researchers that have much more experience than them, and then they should be talking about something, right? But let's forget that for a moment and think that even if maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not the best person in the world to speak on presentations, but I still have some experience. I still have studied this and have worked with a lot of people and given a lot of trainings. So there's might be something about me being the right person to talk about this, but I need to think about that before, okay, to answer those questions to myself. And then, of course, another question is, why should the audience care, right? So why would you even care? So for me, this is quite easy because I've always given presentations on communications and topics that are related to people and how they relate to each other, which I think that people do care about. But if you have a topic that is very technical, or even topics that that Eva was talking about, which reminded me a lot about the business world. You still have to think about why would the audience care? What can they get out of this, right? Because in the business world, it's a lot about, buying and convincing. But with you in the research, there needs to be something about them caring about your research, them caring about the knowledge that you're bringing to them and the information that you're providing. The usual purposes, well, you probably know that most common purposes of talks are either to inform, or to persuade, or to inspire. Most commonly, we will try to have a presentation fulfill many of these purposes. But it's also good to think, okay, where does my speech usually go into? Okay, I'm assuming it's a lot about informing, but sometimes you'll have a persuasion element, and hopefully it's also going to be entertaining. You all know TED Talks, right? So TED Talks, what they have done is kind of taking the purpose of to entertain to another level and to inspire as well. And I think they're wonderful, but I'm sure that in our everyday life, we cannot always have a TED Talk, right? So we cannot just, having like a little workshop wherever and think that we're going to be like as good as a TED Talk, okay? But still, we need to keep aiming to get to those purposes, because this is what will keep us also in a good mood to prepare. So I just gave you here an example of a purpose statement, which, you wouldn't have to, maybe you don't prepare things in such a way, but it's very nice to describe for yourself, okay, what I want to do with this presentation. So my purpose is, to inform my audience, which are, researchers in the field of energy, for example, on how to make talks or more interesting presentations. Here two examples of purpose statements. So one of them is the purpose of my presentation is to share with my co-workers what some project is about. This is actually from a presentation that I gave to our colleagues at our organization, because a lot of the times we inform each other about projects we work on. However, that's not a good enough purpose, okay? Just a purpose to say, well, I just want to share with my workers what I'm doing. That's not a good purpose. What we need is something more, right? For example, I want to explain to my co-workers, my colleagues, the value of this project for our members, or the value of this project for their work, or the connection of this project to their work. So it needs to be something much more specific. The more specific your purpose statement, the better. Also nice to set a goal. So, we think a lot about setting goals in the business world, but actually in just a simple thing like presenting, it would be good to also, I would like some of you to pick something up and from this talk and to do something different in your presentations, even if it's just one thing, because I'm going to give you a couple of ideas, but even if it's just one thing that you're going to do differently from now on when you have a talk, I will feel as if I have achieved my goal. So the more you have that in mind, that that you can set such a goal and actually write it out for yourself, it's better, right? Some examples is also, what action do I want the audience to take? Do I want like the audience to come to me and maybe get my card, or ask me to participate in a research group? Well, it's good if I know that before, right? Also, what will change for them? What will they learn concretely? In order to know all these things about the audience, of course, I need to focus as much as I can on the audience and as little as I can on myself when I do a talk. In order to do this, I need to also think about the information needs of the audience. So unfortunately, I don't know a lot about you. I don't know you personally. If I did, I would have probably, picked the phone and called one of you and just asked you, what are your needs when it comes to giving a talk? So that's something I actually do encourage you to do whenever it's possible, especially if you will know one person in the audience who is like your typical type of the audience, which means, I don't know, a researcher or in your area of interest, then it will be good to talk to them and to see what are their needs. Because if they tell you, well, I know everything about presentations, so the only thing I need to know is, how to make an elevator pitch. Well, then right? And then you can focus that presentation on that. It's also important to think of audience assumptions, because we often assume that audiences don't know things, but maybe they actually do. And sometimes the opposite. We think that they know a lot of things, but they actually don't about the topic that we're going to give them. So you need to test your assumptions. You need to know what's the value of the information that you're providing to them. And you also need to know what's their perspective. So, you know, what do they kind of, what do they think of when they think about their work? What motivates them, right? What are their usual problems that they need solving? Now, I put here so I mentioned before a TED Talk, and what I want to say here is about the very big need of the audience, and why TED Talks are so popular, is because audiences want novelty, because our brains want novelty. So never forget that talk is never just a talk, right? It's an opportunity for you to come to a group of people and to create something new, to put their kind of, we could say that their lizard brain, right, in action. So because people want novelty, they want excitement, they want something new, they want a new way of thinking. So this is the biggest audience need that they have when they see you on stage or you presenting to them. That doesn't mean, I mean, sometimes that can put pressure on you because you think, well, I'm not going to, you know, I'm not some clown, some new shiny, you know, I'm not going to be making the show here. But please keep in mind that that's what they want. So if you have something very novel, something very new about your topic, put it at the beginning, please. Don't put it at the end. It's a good idea to choose a title. So not that only TED Talks are allowed to choose titles, right? We normal people can also choose. I noticed that presentations often have very uninspiring titles. I must admit, maybe even today mine was not very inspiring. But as much as you can, please choose a title, you know, that is going to be, that you imagine that if that title was printed and put on a door somewhere, that people would want to open that door and go in and listen to that presentation, right? So I like these titles, you know, 4 steps to ending extreme poverty. Why blah, blah, blah is something. How do blah, blah. The fish that walk on land. So as you can see, all these titles are not abstract. They're not abstract. They're very concrete. They speak to you with concrete language. They speak about land and fish and violence and misinformation. And they use, you know, very concrete words that you've already heard. And they're a little bit clickbait, I have to admit. So, you know, if it was a blog post, you would maybe want to click. They have an image as well, but that's what we have to do with our talks, right? Even if you work in the research, you need to make them interesting. So the assumptions I'm not going to go into about, but I would like to talk about presentation structure a little bit. So just what I already said at the beginning, that you probably know that we humans, we always rely on a kind of hierarchy of structure in order to comprehend things and in order to have memory tasks. There were some memory tasks and in order to memorize them. So you know that in schools, there is a reason why kids learn the way that they do. And actually it's disturbing to me the new ways of education where, you know, my kids, they get like kind of papers, you know, one day they're going to get a paper on history from I don't know what period, and then they're going to another paper from geography, and it's all like mixed up. It all like doesn't make any sense. Well, when I was a child, we had a book, and that book had a hierarchical structure where you had a pretty clear chronology and you would learn things in a chronological way, or maybe not only chronological way, there's other ways as well. But there would be a buildup of knowledge, right? From something basic to something more complex, I would say. So what we want to do is kind of apply that as well. However, what we want to do is apply it in a bit of a different way when we have a talk. And we do not want to build it up as we would in your research or in any kind of writing. So if you had to write so I had a lot of clients, and actually my best friend as well, it's not a client, my best friend, I helped her with her PhD when she had to present her thesis. And she did the same thing as everyone else that I know who is, you know, doing PhD and research, is that she wanted to kind of copy her PhD into a talk, which means that she started from the beginning and then, you know, she gave like the main message at the end, right? But what we want to do is we want to have a different hierarchy of information. We want to start with something that's much more general, and then we want to go to more. So I just copied here something that I found on the internet, which is we imagine, for example, that there is someone who is a researcher who wants to explain something about fertility. And so what they can do is, they would start with the general, with the main message, right? And really talk to the fact of, so top down, why fertility trends are important and how we can explain them. So you actually start with the outcome. You start at the end. And then you go into the hypothesis, maybe the old hypothesis, or you speak about the problem that are associated, the ideas. And then you would only at the end talk about your model that you developed, really the specific details that you worked on. But you would start with the general and not with the specific. So just have that in mind. Of course, you can do as you wish. But when people speak, when people listen, this is a much more natural way to learn information, to go from the top down structure. While when we read, it may be the way that it's much more common to actually have the opposite, right? Presentations have usually a simple structure. I mean, you can have, of course, you can innovate with the structure, but most commonly have an introduction, you have a body. So almost like in an academic essay, in the sense that you have a paragraph where you have like an introduction, then you have a couple of paragraphs where you develop your arguments, and then you have one paragraph, which is the conclusion. So that still kind of stays, because we do need to know that there's separate parts. Of course, in a presentation, you will also have a Q&A, so that's quite exciting, because you would not have that if you just wrote something. And then you might also have a closure sometimes. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about slides here. So what happens with slides is that, we've all been a little bit, PowerPoint, but there's been, let's say, a tendency for some people to continue using slides as if they are simply a support for words and documents. So there's like a lot of words on those slides, which is fine if that presentation is just if that presentation is a kind of a summary of your larger research and you need to send it to someone so that they can read it. But it's not okay if you need to have a talk, right? So when you are speaking, you should not be afraid to really move away all those words that are not necessary. Just have a couple of bullets per slide. Make sure that people can actually listen to you and not be reading the slides, right? Make sure that you know what's the point of your slide, because maybe you don't even need it there. And you don't want to have like more than 5 to 7 words per bullet point. And I've noticed that this is very hard for some people to do, because they're very attached to the idea that it's not serious if they don't have a lot of words and on their slides. So just let's understand that when we are in the speaking mode, that people definitely do not want to be listening to you and reading things at the same time. I always recommend to use sometimes a hidden slide approach if you can. Of course, you're not going to have time today to practice this, but it's really to have like 2 sets of slides. So one would be so what we see here above is what people could see. These are kind of like the simple pyramid slides. That if you would share it with someone, they wouldn't really know what you talked about, because you would just have, some keywords and images. But then, of course, you can also have another presentation, which you don't have to create, but you can just put it on paper in some boxes, like a storyboard, where you would really know what your narrative is for that presentation. So if you have, so in a way, what I'm saying, maybe you're not going to have time to create 2, but what I want to say is that one thing is what people see, and another thing is what you are, your narrative and your presentation. Usually I have a script. So whenever I give a training, I have a script. It's basically like 20 or 30 pages long. I don't read it, but at least I know what I'm doing. And then I have slides for the audience. And I've noticed that for some reason, people just have everything on their slides, but that's not good, because it's not going to be helpful for your audience to need to see and read what you maybe had to prepare and rehearse beforehand, right? So for them, you just have what is for them to see as a show. And for you, you have all the messages that you don't want to forget, and your narrative structure, so you're sure that it follows a certain narrative structure which makes sense and which is easy to follow by your audience. Introductions are very important. Today, when you're going to give your presentation, which I know is going to be very important, just try in that beginning really to gain the attention of the audience. Already from Aristotle, not something that we invented now modern. We have four, let's say, functions. It needs to gain the attention of the audience. It needs to gain the goodwill of the audience, which basically means, you know, that the audience needs to be like, oh yeah, I actually want to listen to her, you know, or to him. That's a bit difficult to explain how we do that, but ideally you want to gain that goodwill, that they really want to listen. You want to preview the structure, which is kind of what we do at the beginning when we say this is what's going to happen. And you also want to introduce the topic so people know what you're going to be talking about, and that you don't just jump in. To gain the attention of the audience, we have a lot of attention getters, and these can be a quote. So I actually didn't use any because we're running so late, but you could use always like a quote. You could use a little anecdote, something that happened. So please also don't think that because you're using an attention getter or a funny image or whatever, don't think that because you're using an attention getter, for some reason, the audience is going to think less of you, or that it's going to be less perceived as a less serious presentation. Because as I said, it's the need of the audience. They need someone to create something novel. We need some novelty. Our brain needs novelty. So we need that. We need to give them a little attention getter so that immediately they're in. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to go into that, but I will just tell you the other parts that I would usually tell you about. I would tell you about credibility, and that's very important because I know that a lot of researchers, especially, they want to, of course, there's a lot of competition and they want to be credible. So, you know, there will be an element of credibility. We will talk about what credibility contains, which is competence, charisma. So that could be a whole nother conversation. We will talk about types of attention getters, so stories, referring to statistics. We would also just say, you know, some tips for delivering the presentation, and also talking a little bit about concrete versus abstract language, which is very, very important because people don't listen to abstract language well. A little bit about time management, what makes an effective or I think that would be the end. We have to finish now. So I give the word back to Eva.
Yes, thank you, Masha. And we're sorry again for the background noise. Masha's internet just gave up this morning. What else? Of course, in the morning of the conference, it just didn't work. So she was kind enough to run out and find a cafe where she could give the presentation at all. So we're happy that she's with us, but of course, we're very sorry for the background noise. Thank you very much, Masha, for your presentation. I already received a question on how to get access to the slides after this event. To be very honest with you, I think we have to discuss this with the conference organizers, but of course, the slides will be available if you just drop an email to the organizers. I'm sure the information will be available after the conference. Now we will go into breakout rooms. We have half an hour to go, so we shortened. Basically, we just have half the time to come up with a pitch. And for that, you will go in breakout rooms. You will have a facilitator. We will have 2 breakout rooms, and you will be requested to create a pitch. The facilitators will have a link for you to a Google slide deck that will be based on the pitch slide deck that you saw earlier in my presentation. And you are free to use these slides to create your pitch. The first thing you would need to do is to choose a topic. What would you like to pitch in 2 minutes? Then maybe discuss who's going to pitch. Remember, you will have 2 minutes. And then try to make a pitch in 20 minutes based on what you know. And we will listen to what you learned when we come back to this room in about 25 minutes. So I will start the sessions now. One of the facilitators will be Axel Feitengruber from Climate Alliance. The other one is going to be Wolfgang. Masha, I assigned you to one of the rooms if you want to contribute. And I'm excited to hear what comes out of the pitching.
Eva, just
Yes.
a quick question. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just jump from I guess it's only 2 rooms, right?
Yes.
Okay, and just to make sure, so they will create a pitch on the slides that are in the slide deck, right?
Yes, yes.
Very good. Okay.
Okay. Enjoy.
So hi, Eva, you can put me in another room if you wish.
Okay.
There's someone wanting to enter the room, Eric.
Yeah. Hi, Eric. Masha, you were in room 2 or in room 3? Oh, there you go. Hey, Masha.
Hello.
Hello. Oh my God, this is like the you're a heroine going to running through a cafe.
Well, I tried to make it work at home. That's why it took me so long, because you know it was like there was hope, because we called the company and you know it seemed like it was going to happen, but not nice from a cafe, because obviously you hear the noise and the people around me, you know, were annoyed because we're speaking like crazy.
Better than nothing, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. I should get Clement once to pay me for the, because we don't get the internet paid from home, you know. So it's, yeah. And we need more and more internet. And my husband works from home and it's like, it's crazy. So we wait for the others? They will come
Yeah,
soon?
I just gave them a minute. I hope that the session is not closing automatically, but
then you want them to, you want me to give feedback, right? Or...
yeah, let's see if we have enough time. I think I will ask them who's if any of them feels like they want to present. If both of them want to present, then yeah.
No, they usually chose one person, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like we have 2 breakout rooms. Yeah,
I understand what you mean. One of the rooms. But as I told you, because I've done this many times, and you need a lot more time than you think. Right?
yeah, sure. Yeah, we were waiting in the beginning because there was first 1 person and then only 9. It was 10 minutes when people started to come.
Oh, I didn't
So
know
we
that.
lost a lot
people
of
were
time.
late. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought I was the only one late.
And then I was trying to, you know, push my presentation until I saw you coming in, and I was like, okay.
I saw you were slow. You were like, okay. I thought, okay, good.
Yeah, usually it would have been like a 5 minutes presentation. Yeah.
I noticed
Okay.
you were dragging it up. Yeah, a little bit.
Now, Wolfgang. Wolfgang, we don't hear you.
I said Suhib is showing up. He is a bit late.
He's a bit late. This countdown on Zoom is like the world is ending in 20, 19, 18. It's so funny. Okay, Wolfgang, you know, does Valentin want to? Wolfgang, do you hear me?
Yes, I'm just communicating with Suhib to put him on track and to tell him to come to the conference.
Well, it's too late now.
Yeah.
Does Valentin want to present or not really? Or are they feeling it like a pain
No,
in the ass?
we have 4 slides
Okay.
finished the topic, and I don't know how to show the Google Drive in
You will share the slides simply.
in the plenum. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Hi, Stratos. Welcome back. Yeah, you will have to share your screen.
Yes. Suhib. Wow.
Okay. So welcome back to the session. I would say actually the workshop is over, but I hope that we just have 2 more minutes or 4 more minutes because we started late with you arriving and the connection problems. So would you like to present your pitch? Valentin, I don't know who and from the other group volunteered to present.
Eric will do.
Okay, then I suggest that the co-hosts share their screens with the slide deck. And I would say, who would like to start? Nobody wants to start. Who would?
Oh, sorry. I was saying no problem, but my
okay, then
microphone
Valentin,
was muted.
you should start, and that means that Wolfgang, you would need to share the pitch. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're holding the 2 minutes. Okay, let's start. Hello, everyone. As most of you know, climate change is a problem, and it's a big problem because it causes rising temperatures and also extreme weather, which will eventually cause humanity to die. The other problem is that countries and governments are not eager on taking steps towards solutions. And another problem is also that there's no common agreement in solving the issue. But unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, we have some solutions to these problems. Yeah, okay, because what we need to do, we need to strengthen the targets to meet the 1.5 degrees target of the OECD areas. But another important thing to remember is that countries who are not part of the OECD, they are poor and they need help. Therefore, we need to help these regions in developing countries in both economically and also in terms of the target implementations. And solution 3 is that we need to make sure that those targets are really get implemented and that the promises are kept. So you ask yourself, why is this important now? Well, reason 1 is that climate change mitigations takes time. So therefore we need to act now. Otherwise we're just too late and there's no turning back. Another important reason is that if we act now and early, it's an early implementations is equals to cheaper solutions on the long run. So also for our wallet, it's better to act now. And now I can show you some evidence. As you can see, the red line, that is the current policy projections. The orange dot is the targets that we have implemented, that we say we are going to reach. But we need to be on number 1 on the blue dot if we want to act. And also if we want to meet the 1.5 target. So therefore, we need to act now, people.
All right. Thank you very much. Exactly 2 minutes. Wonderful. So how about the other group? Wolfgang, I think you can stop sharing now. It was right on the point. We need to act now. Thank you. Thank you, Valentine. So who's going to present from the other group? Do you want to present anything? Axel started already, so somebody will start to present.
Okay.
So the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes. Go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Okay, which is I can. Okay, someone is sharing the screen. Okay, it's Axel, no? Okay, our speech was related to the all inflexible power grids. That is like an important issue around European countries, across European countries. And also we identify street problems. It's like business side effects, transmission expansion planning. And so the lack of accountability and transparency in environmental issues from government side. And also the information is a key of the citizen actions for a better environments. Because it's like the power grids are really important in order to deliver energy from the generation to the demand side. However, it's like the planning process is like involve some of part of that, but we need more participation from the citizens, for the demand, from the transmission, and from all the stakeholders around, no? And so our visions is like in order to deal with this problem is encourage the business participation inside of the planning process. Also include this is a research line in order, for example, to include the business model inside of the planning process. The second solution is facilitate the citizen participation inside of the process, both on projects and capacity building in order to generate this public process, no? And also it's like to need more create communication channels in order to all the citizens knows about what is important to have this grid and what is important to renew this power grid, because it's old and it was setting up in a different context several years ago, and now it's like we need new challenge in order, for example, the renewables and to changing the capacity mix, and so we need to deal with another challenge that nowadays is different from the past, no? And so in order to say that
your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Well, I think, of course, 20 minutes is not enough to create a good pitch, right? You need to find your goal. You need to find the focal point. You need to be able to tell the story, as we heard from Masha. But I think for the 20 minutes, you did at least really well to find, okay, what is my problem and what could be the solution, right? And for 20 minutes, it's a lot, let's say. Of course, you don't know each other. One of the key points of pitching is you should know your topic, you should know what you offer, and you should know why you offer it. And of course, this 20 minutes is not enough for that, but that was also not the point here. The point here was to show you, to make you feel what it means to start to think about a pitch, what it means to take a huge topic and shrink it to 2 minutes in a way that people get excited about it and support you in realizing your research. So with these words, I say thank you for joining us and thank you for being part of this workshop. And I hope we could give you some ideas and maybe a glimpse of an experience on for the next time pitching your research results. Of course, the presentations will be public after this session. The EMP-E conference also will publish the recordings on, I guess, on the conference side. But for that, if you have any questions, just please contact the EMP-E organizers. For now, thank you for joining this morning session, the name of Climate Alliance and the Y Project. Have a wonderful day.